Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone, and happy Labor Day weekend. It's good to see you on this Sunday afternoon. We are all impacted by the culture, whether we like it or not, from politics to music to entertainment to government to everything that happens in our everyday lives. It is a major part of our everyday lives. And we talk about it here every first and third Sunday, right here on Up Close and Cultural with Dr. Harris A on KUAW Radio. That is knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. So please take a moment and follow us across all the socials, all social media platforms. You can see it across the screen, that being Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Periscope, and the TuneIn app. You can also find us on kuaw.org on all of those platforms. Please like, comment, and subscribe. You can also see the number at the bottom where you can call in and call into the show with your questions and comments. And you can also email. Um, Also, share this broadcast as well. I have a few emails that I have from everyone because I have not had a chance to address them since I was on last. Some of them have kind of been, I guess, kind of self explanatory. I know that some of them are addressing the, um, well, I'll just do with the first subject. Many of the emails that I have that I'm going to address right now and the text messages that I have kind of already been answered since the um, well, I would say the failure of the passing of the Value Them Both Amendment. So a lot of those questions were centered around just what was in the amendment, what was already inside some of the laws that were already on the books. And there was a lot of confusion around that. But as you already know, that amendment passed. The women in Kansas definitely, with a resounding no, said that this is not what we wanted. And as a result, the amendment failed, and Kansas has set a standard for other states around the nation to follow suit. And to answer the questions for many of you who thought that there was not an avenue in the amendment for women who needed reproductive care and who were not going to be able to access reproductive care, or there would be no limits to reproductive care already. I believe that those things have already been answered for you. There was a lot of confusion in there, and I believe that it was put in there purposely to try to confuse the voters. But as you recall, we were out in the streets, and I'm sorry, I have a lot of technology going on around me right now. So if you hear all of the bells and whistles, that's what that is. Um, but that was the point of us being out and being available to answer all of those questions for you so you could get the right information. And so that it was not a matter of opinion, it was about directing you to either the the websites for the Kansas legislature or just to your own local politicians or to your own physicians so that you could get firsthand information and that they can answer questions for you directly from people that you trusted. And so it could be um, nonpartisan, as some of you put it, or as I said before, just from people that you trusted. But again, as I said before, that is kind of moot right now. However, the fight is not over because, as you know, just for the state of Kansas, even though more than 900,000 Kansas, both men and women, I would just say more than 900,000 Kansas voters showed up and voted, Kansas still has an overwhelming majority in the legislature who still want or who are still in favor of the Value Them Both amendment. And I am pretty sure that um, you are aware that there have been efforts to try to even overturn that. Even in Johnson County, you saw that there was a recount that was done. That recount actually, it was tried, they tried to do the recount in the entire state of Kansas. However, they did not have the funds to do the recount for the entire state. So they chose particular counties to do the recount. And Johnson County was one of them. There were a few counties. I know there's Johnson County, Sedgwick County. By the way, it doesn't matter. And at the end of the day, it failed. But point being is that Kansas still has a majority of people in the legislature who would like to see the Value Them Both amendment or the language that is in there passed and would like to see further restrictions placed on women's reproductive care. And so, with that being said, there is still work to be done. And I want to just preface this by saying that when people think of the language that is inside of the Value Them Both, or just when they think about that period, this is not about what a woman does, just particularly, or the sexual choices that she makes. That's not what the sum total of it is about. And the things that I am speaking about, even just from a medical standpoint, is if you just think about cases where um, there are, and even just as an African American woman, and I have common medical issues that plague us in the African American community. I am a cancer survivor. I also have type 2 diabetes. And those are those are diseases that can affect um, they can affect pregnancy. You also have other autoimmune diseases such as lupus, sickle cell anemia, so forth and so on. And sometimes, especially as you get older, they can cause a fetus to what we call to either not um, form correctly in the womb or just not be viable for whatever reason. And so, even for mothers who choose to have a baby and absolutely want to have a baby, that is not always an option. And there was one time in my life that that wasn't an option for me. And I am, and it was devastating for me to not be able to carry my child to term. And, but it was, I shudder to think that I would have had to wait and, or there would be some hesitancy in my care because my doctor had to wait to consult some law or a legislature or his attorney to make sure that they weren't breaking the law before they made sure that I was okay. And so I want people to also understand that there's more to this issue than that. And so even recently in the media, there is a young lady by the name of Nancy Davis, and she is out of Louisiana. She's only 26 years old. And she is a mother who is pregnant with um, I'm not sure, I probably should have gotten an update on it, but I haven't. But I would say that she is still pregnant, and I believe she's about 10 weeks pregnant now, and between 10 to 14 weeks, I would say. And her child, her baby, her fetus has been diagnosed with a crania. And that is that is an issue where the baby basically will be born without a skull. It is developing inside her womb without a skull. And that is just impossible for the baby to survive. You cannot survive without a skull. Okay. And the doctors in Louisiana have refused to do a DNC or have refused to terminate the pregnancy because of the strict laws there in Louisiana. And so Ms. Davis has been forced to just go home and wait for the fetus to terminate itself. And so that is something that's been called carry to bury. And I hate to sound insensitive, but that's actually what it's called. You're being forced to carry a fetus until termination. And that's a devastating feeling for a mother to have, to basically wait until your child passes inside of you. And those are the things that the women of Kansas would have been facing. And so, also along with that, there were also laws on the table in other states that were trying to pass in regards to if the mother left the state trying to get reproductive services in another state, that she could be affected with the laws of that state in regards to um, criminal charges for crossing state lines and so forth and so on. But either way, like I said before, the women of Kansas said no to all of that, and that we were just not going to go for that. And the men too. I'm definitely not negating the men. We definitely are acknowledging all of the supporters of this. But again, with the control right now that is in the legislature, this can come up again. And it goes far beyond um, just what happens between a man and a woman in the bedroom. Okay. There are a lot of women out there who want to be pregnant and who want to have their baby and cannot carry a pregnancy to term, and who will be forced to make decisions that they don't want to make, but could possibly be in harm's way. And I would just leave it at that. But along with that, there is also the legal piece of it, because these things at some point they were just talk. But if you also look back, there is a bill that was on the table, and I am trying to, I believe um, it was, it was 158. Yes, it was a House Bill 158, and it basically was saying, and I won't summarize it, but I'll put the link to it and I'll post a link to it so you can see it. But it was giving people the right to, well, first it was saying that it was declaring an unborn fetus as a child. And with that, when you are a child or a full human, then it would give someone the right to protect that child or that human. So, with that being said, if a mother was found at a clinic trying to access reproductive services, then a person would have the right to use force, I would say, because I'm trying to be aware of the language that I use because of the laws that are, with Facebook and with YouTube and other platforms. But I'm sure you guys understand what I'm saying. If not, then please always feel free to email me and I would explain or go into things further with you about it. Um, but they could use force to protect the mother. I mean, protect the baby, even if it meant unaliving the mother. Okay. And then the mother could be faced with criminal charges herself, including, well, up and including the death penalty. So there are all of these outrageous laws, in my opinion, on the table behind just reproductive care for women. And that law was introduced in 2019. And can you hear me okay? Okay. And so that law had been on the table since 2019, and this was well before all of this. So these things have been in play for quite a while. So, with that being said, we don't know what will come next. So, along with that, we also have the Supreme Court, the Kansas State Supreme Court, and we also have our local government. So I will say that it is imperative that you pay attention to your local elections. You definitely need to pay attention to the elections that are coming up in November and you vote accordingly. And if you do not want to see certain things happen, then you need to vote for the candidate that would vote in favor of your beliefs. Okay. I would also like to put out there that we are also battling issues with our education system. And I do have some teachers who will be coming on the show as well. And I will have them to, I don't want to speak for them because I want you to hear from the teachers themselves. I have been I've been speaking to a lot of teachers on both sides of the border and just hearing their stories about what it's like or what it's been like teaching through the pandemic and transitioning from online school back into the classroom and getting acclimated to the classroom as well as to the students again. And then on top of that, to have to deal with the attack against them. The attacks saying that they are somehow not doing a good job and that our students are failing, which we know just is not the truth. Our students are doing great in the state of Kansas. And you can look this information up yourself. They are performing well. They are receiving awards in math and science, and our teachers need to be supported. They need to be supported when you hear negative information about them. Then you need to speak up for them, and you need to counter that with the correct information. You also support them by volunteering in the classroom. It's in it's imperative that you help. It makes a difference, if not even for the teachers, but definitely for your child, that you make your presence known inside of the classroom and that you let the teachers know that you are there for them. You have, and this is coming from them, and of course, I'm going to let them speak too. I'm not going to touch because that's a totally different show. But when you show up, and it does not have to be all day, it doesn't even have to be for the whole class. If you can show up just for a small amount of time, it would mean the world to the teachers just to know that you have their back in this. And you never know. It makes the difference between a teacher deciding to stay in Kansas or leave the state and go somewhere else. Because as you know, a lot of classes have been consolidated where, and I'm just throwing a number out there, where your child used to have a class where there were maybe 10 students in it, excuse me, but now they are in classrooms where there are 30 kids in there, or they are combining classes. And that's a lot. However, that is going to be a very interesting show, and I am very, very excited about it. And I cannot wait for you to hear from the teachers here in Kansas and to hear how they are dealing with that and their resiliency and just the exciting things that they have on board, because it's not all gloom and doom. When I tell you that these teachers are absolutely amazing and the things that they are doing inside of those classrooms just to keep our kids not only safe, but to keep them in good spirits about what's going on in regards to education, you'll be amazed. But uh, that is about it for the questions, because the most of the questions were just clearing up the confusion about what was in the amendment, what wasn't in the amendment. But again, I want to just be clear that there is still work to be done, and I just hope that everyone would exercise their right to vote. As I always say, if you do not do that, then you've taken yourself out of this fight, period. When you don't exercise your right to vote, then you definitely have taken away your choices. Um, so let's talk about what is going on right now in Jackson, Mississippi. I know for those of you who are with me on Clubhouse, I it was it was a lot. I spent a few hours down there earlier this week. For those of you who know, I am from Alabama, right next door to Mississippi, and I want to thank some of my sorority sisters here, as well as from my chapter at Tuskegee Gamma Tau. We got together, and some of my Order of Eastern Star sisters. We got together and we took some water and food and kitty litter to Jackson, Mississippi, because of the water crisis that is going on in Jackson, Mississippi. And I'm taking for granted that all of you know what is going on or has been going on down there for the past, I would say, a few weeks, because they've been up under a boil water order for I think about 2 months now. But as far as the flooding, it's been about I believe about a week, I want to say. However, it's giving it's um it was just sad to see that in 2022 that a city that is the capital city of a state in the United States does not have viable running water, and the citizens there are struggling just for a basic human need such as water. And what has happened in Jackson, I know prior to going back to the boil water order, a few months ago, there was I would say that they found an issue with the water. The water plant is very old. There's no other way to put it. It is very, very old in Jackson, Mississippi. And there was some testing done, and they had to boil the water. Well, in doing that testing, um, the rain came and then the flooding came. Well, when you add the flooding, and I believe there has to be 2 days um, of clear testing of negative results where you can, or when you can tell the citizens that it's okay to use the water. That has to be certain conditions where that is met. And one of those conditions, of course, is that there cannot be any rain or inclement weather. Well, again, like I said before, came the rain and came the flooding. So as a result of that, they haven't been able to test the water. So from that, um, rain and then the flooding has occurred there in Jackson, Mississippi. And it has been devastating to the city because with the water plant flooding, it has basically caused it to shut down. So it is more than the plant not being able to test the water. It has pretty much rendered it non-operational. Now, I was not able to go inside or do anything like that, but I did see that there are people who are there who are working, and the citizens there are trying to. I mean, they are dedicated. They are doing what they can inside the plant to get it back up and running. The issue that they are facing as far as getting it back up and running, I am not aware of. I do know that at this point that FEMA is there. I know the National Guard is there with supplies, but just being there in Jackson, Mississippi is a struggle. The water has gone the issue with the water has gone far beyond just a boil water issue. It is at the point where the water is not safe to even bathe in. So you have the citizens of Jackson, Mississippi, they have to go to the neighboring cities just to take a bath. They have to, it's not safe to wash their hands. There are some people who are getting rashes and irritants on their skin just from washing their hands. There are mothers who can't bathe their children. The schools have shut down. Uh, and as a result, there are people who are back home who are unemployed again. And of course, you know that there are a lot of families, just like there are here, who depend on the schools to feed their children. Um, and for those of you who aren't aware, Mississippi is not the wealthiest state uh, in the nation. As a matter of fact, I mean, probably about 20% of Mississippi residents, they live well below the poverty line. And even more than that, live below the poverty line in Jackson, Mississippi. And of course, Jackson, Mississippi is a predominantly Black town. And it is, even though it hasn't always been, it has been for a while, it is a predominantly Black town. And basically, the poorest of the poor live there. And now those issues are being compounded, especially coming out of a pandemic, just when people thought that they were getting some relief and getting back on their feet, they are now out of a job and now having to be back at home. And some people who do have certain foods can't cook certain foods because they require water. And even with the water, and I go back to the boil water order. So even when they do boil water, The water after it's boiled, it's still not safe to consume. There is some. It looked like dirt to me. I would just say it was gritty. Like I said, they can't even bathe in it. I don't know what it was, just from what I saw. It was gritty and just unsafe to use. So, say you have to, whatever recipe that calls for you to put water in it, if you don't have the bottled water, then you can't cook those foods. And so that's why getting water to Mississippi Jackson is so important because it's not just about drinking and being hydrated. It is a matter of life or death because you also have mothers with newborn babies. You have to mix the formula that they use with water. You have to, oh, the residents are also being told that if they do shower, which they are being told not to shower, um, that they should shower with their mouth closed. And who wants to shower in water if you can't even open your mouth? That's letting you know right there that that water does not belong on your skin anyway, because anything that is that shouldn't be in your mouth shouldn't be in your on your skin because it can be absorbed through. However, um, so the water that is sent to Jackson is being used for everything. It is being used to bathe. It is being used to flush the toilets because the water pressure is also low. That is also the thing with the water treatment plant being shut down. I saw tankers, these big, huge water tankers that were in. I know I saw one that was in a school parking lot that was being guarded by the National Guard, and I actually thought that it was a maybe like a water refill where people could go and get water, but I was told that's not what it was. I was told that that tanker was there to aid in the plumbing system, just to help people to be able to flush their toilets. Because I saw that there are these long lines of of cars just for people waiting to get water, and a lot of they shut down so quickly, and people would have to turn around and leave be, without water because they ran out just that fast. That is how imperative it is that Jackson get resources right now because they use water for everything. And I say everything brushing your teeth, uh, taking a bath, cooking, flushing your toilets. And that's why I see that I just got a text going, why did you take kitty litter? Well, and this is I'm trying to text them back. So the kitty litter is we took the kitty litter when I found out about the plumbing system. The kitty litter is used for the plumbing. So if you when you don't have running water um, in your home, or when the power goes out, then just as a survival technique, or even when you're out camping, um, because it's biodegradable, certain kitty litter is. So be careful when you go and you buy that. You're supposed to, I'm sorry, I just texted you back. There was someone on my Instagram. Use the, that's why you use the kitty litter because you can use that also helps with the water consumption as well. So if people can use the kitty litter in lieu of water, then that makes the water last longer or the water resource there last longer. So well until further help comes. So that was the point of taking the kitty litter. So, okay. So yeah, so that was the point of taking the kitty litter down there. And yeah, so the food was not just any food. It was taking food down there to that you didn't have to mix with water. So of course, canned goods and things that people could pop in the microwave, or that was already in disposable containers because they can't wash dishes. They can't even wash dishes in the water. First of all, if when the water comes on down there, it's coming out very, very slow when it comes out at all. But like I said before, it's not even about bleaching the water or boiling the water. There's some other kind of substance that is in the water to where it's just not safe to use. So people are opting not to use the water at all, not even to wash their dishes. So that's why we took the little cups of like with the Chef Boyardee and ramen noodles, things that are already in containers. So they did not have to worry about washing dishes as well. So keep those things in mind. You know, and I didn't think about that. I will make a list of what we actually took down there, and we'll make another trip. I'm hoping to go down there this weekend again too. And I will post links to other organizations that are helping with the efforts down there in Jackson, Mississippi, because, like I said, these are our people. And it's ridiculous that in 2022 that you have to, um, that you're living in conditions where you do not have a basic need such as water. And think about the things that water operates, such as air conditioning. And in order to, this is Mississippi. Mississippi is not a cool state. It is not. It is just as hot in Mississippi as it is in the Midwest. And it's a different kind of heat. And so any kind of relief from the heat was to go and sit in the car because the buildings did not have air conditioning. So unless you had an electric or some sort of portable, then, and I'm talking about, yeah, an electric one, then that is how you had AC. So, but the ones that generate, the ones that are built into the home, that actually use water, then there are people who are struggling in 100 and something degree weather as well um, because of this as well. So it's a lot. It's a lot, and the reason behind all of that just stems all the way back to just years and years ago. And I'm going to have to, I will post it um, in the I see the things on my Instagram. I'll get it, and I'll probably get on Clubhouse a little bit later. I know on Facebook I had some of you asked me about it when I posted it, when you asked the questions about Jackson. But I'll post it, or you can email me. But I want to talk about the history because this isn't something that just happened. This isn't some fluke of where maybe something went wrong or a screw popped out, and I'm being facetious, at the water plant. And that's why I put what does Flint, Michigan, and Jackson, Mississippi have in common. And I just want to point out that a lot of things that happen in the African American community are systemic, and how these things can happen over and over again, or how history tends to repeat itself if it doesn't correct itself. And it corrects itself when we do something about it. And the issue that happened in Flint, basically in a nutshell, was that they turned around and, um, well, I would just say that the water resource that they used basically ended up poisoning the citizens there. And that is not what we want to happen in Jackson, Mississippi. Because as a result, Flint still is struggling um, to this day. And we don't want another Flint. And that is the importance of the victory of the infrastructure bill passing recently. There is about, I want to say about 400 something $1 million that is supposed to be going to the state of Mississippi uh, for this very thing right here. So when you have these laws on the table, it is important that you look into them. And I know a lot of people have been on social media going where all of this money was sent to Ukraine, and I want to know why Joe Biden is sending this money there, but these people and this is going on in Mississippi and all of that. And I know these memes they are meant to be catchy, but it's so reckless when you just have no idea what you're talking about because these bills are on the table. And the governor of Mississippi and many people, they've been voting against money and funds to update this water treatment plant for a very long time. And the money has been allocated for Mississippi already. And like I said, and I won't harp on it, but that is the point of this entire infrastructure. And for those of you who are not aware of what infrastructure is, because I figured that out as well when I was speaking to people about this, um, you might want to look it up. And when you do that and you actually educate yourself on what infrastructure is and where this money goes, then you might you'll start posting different kinds of memes. I'll just put it like that. But what I wanted to say in regards to that is there is a history behind, and it's systemic behind what's going on in Jackson, Mississippi. And I found an article in the archives from, I want to say, and I'm trying to find it. I don't think I can post it up, but this article um, comes from, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? I want to say it's from 1922, and I'm not going to try to waste time to find it, but I'm going to summarize it. But this article is from 1922, and it talks about the water treatment plant was um, when the water treatment plant was built, and it talks about it gives you the history behind the water treatment plant itself. But more than that, it talks about how you move forward and when the segregation laws were put in place and Jackson, Mississippi, which was predominantly white at one point in time, and the segregation laws were passed saying that the schools had to be integrated. And as a result, the predominantly white population of Jackson, Mississippi at the time said, we don't want this. So when that happened, they started to move because the Supreme Court said, well, it's going to happen whether you like it or not. So, well, the citizens in Jackson, Mississippi at that time, they said, well, if we're being forced, then we're going to leave. Well, as a result, when they left, then their money leaves as well. And then you're left with citizens there who do not have the money to fund well, pretty much anything in the city. And so when you do not have the revenue in the city or in any city, then basically, and it's just like with anything anywhere, if you don't support locally, then everything around you starts to fail. And you can attest to that here, right here in Kansas City. But I digress. So as a result of that, what happened was the um, the schools took a turn and the poverty level started to go up. And as the surrounding areas started to flourish, Jackson, Mississippi did the opposite. And so the money from the state went to fund a lot of the suburban areas, which is actually what's going on right now. If you look at where the money is going in the state of Mississippi, that money is going, even though the money that goes to the state of Mississippi is based on the large population of the Black community that is in Jackson, Mississippi. The funding is actually going to build up suburban areas and not even the capital city itself. So, with that being said, our people there are struggling, and it is not going to get any better unless something major is done. And um, the mayor of Jackson, Mississippi, is a Tuskegee University alumni. I don't know if I mentioned that, but that is another reason why well, I definitely, and a lot of other people have gotten involved personally, I would say, because we all try to support each other, not only, just being a part of the African American community, but definitely try to support alumni in all that we do. Again, the mayor of Jackson, Mississippi is a Tuskegee University alumni, and he is doing a great job down there. And I just want to encourage everyone, if you can, just get involved because this can happen. Um, it can happen in other underprivileged and underserved areas. And if you think about the rural towns that are even surrounding us, it may not be the water, but it could be a decline in something else. So when you do not support locally, or when you start to see people move out of an area for whatever reason, and those resources start to leave that area, and schools shut down, and grocery stores shut down, that means a loss of job. And it doesn't just stop there. It doesn't at all. That means that there are families somewhere in that city who are going without because there are people who used to work in those places. So it's very important that you educate yourself on your surroundings and that you get involved, excuse me, locally, excuse me, because it is 2022. And I guess for me to see it, I thought Hurricane Katrina was devastating, and which it was. Because well, let me finish that statement. I never thought that I would see a Hurricane Katrina, and then there have been many things after that that I thought that I would never see. And then here I am sitting here in 2022, and I am seeing a capital city in the United States where people cannot even turn on their water faucet and get clean water. I don't understand why that is not even an expectation. In a capital city where they pay taxes and they themselves fund the city, and in this state where the state auditor is under investigation right now, as a matter of fact, for paying an athlete, I want to say is Brett Favre, millions of dollars. Is it 75? It's something millions of dollars. Don't quote me on the number for speech. My question is, how can you afford to pay an athlete millions of dollars who's already a millionaire for speech, but you cannot build in your capital city a treatment plant just for the basic need of water for its citizens. Something is very wrong there. And you can look that up. It's the state auditor that it's a fraud investigation right now. And so, and that's why I say a lot of these things are systemic. And to see people who are bathing their baby in the sink with a bottle of water, that was troubling to me. That was very, very troubling to me. And I felt like I needed to talk about it today because we have to spread the word. I'm seeing it on cable outlets, but I'm not seeing it in local outlets. And I find that troubling as well because I'm sure that if that had happened to someone else, people of no color, then this would be everywhere. Um, this shouldn't be happening in any year, but definitely in 2022. No one should be over a sink brushing their teeth with the bottle of water. They should not be bathing their children with bottled water. Um, and they certainly shouldn't have to have to wait in line for 3.5 hours just for one case of water and then get there and it's not even there. That's troubling to me. And it should trouble you as well. So even though it's not happening here, it's happening somewhere. And in the United States, that's unacceptable. And I'm pretty sure that if it was happening here in Kansas City, then you would want your story told. You would want the nation to know about this, and you would want help. FEMA had like there were National Guard troops down there. I do know that the governor declared a state of emergency, um, and I know that President Biden has um, sent FEMA down to assess the situation. I did not, just in speaking with uh, people down there, the governor there is not, in my opinion, doing what he can. I'm not a governor, but I just know he could be doing more, in my opinion, and I stand on that. But either way, um, again, like I said, you can email me, call me, whatever the case may be, text me. I will get your information. I will also post more information into reputable charities where you can either donate and get to help get resources to the people in. I was getting ready to say Flint, but I'm sure Flint still need help too. But to get resources down to the people in Jackson, Mississippi, and any way that you can, again, whether it be the water or food. But they need as much help as they can, even if it is just sharing this video and just getting the word out because it's not being spread out like it should. There are still people who don't even know what's going on in Jackson, Mississippi right now, who need to know what's going on in Jackson, Mississippi right now, who could possibly get down there and help. Even Deion Sanders, the kids there at university have had to move to other locations. So either way, thank you guys for joining me here on Up Close and Cultural with Dr. Kersey. And I will see you guys in 2 weeks. Enjoy your Labor Day weekend and stay safe.